Hello, my fellow webheads. It is your friendly neighborhood Jerry Rasco here again with you today. We are going to be looking at an epic issue of the Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 50. Um, Fantastic, iconic, and not only are we going to be looking at an incredible comic together, I have a very special guest joining us today. Let me bring him in right away, Mr. Andy Smith.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Thank you so much for being here. This is a fantastic issue, and I knew this one was bigger than just me. I wanted to get somebody else in here who is a comic historian, comic fan, comic lover, and I knew you were the right guy for the mission. So thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
So I'm going to get us over to look at the comic. This one is just incredible. And here we go. So this is I mean, just amazing, right? The cover, this is such an iconic cover. I mean, how many people have stolen or imitated this cover over the years, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
and one of the things I've noticed in the series here so far, they're continuing to use the Steve Ditko box art at this point, which I think is still really interesting.
Mhm.
And then I really thought about this morning as I was preparing. Like, this issue is a great jumping on point for, I think, for new readers. The way the story goes. Previously, I don't know if you caught the two issues before, but this was the Return of Craven and the New Vulture.
Right.
Blackie, and I forget his last name was, but he was not well loved, was not well received by the fans. So it almost felt like, hey, let's kind of reset a little bit and get into a new groove. So um but I mean, this bright red cover, like I said, how many times have we seen imitators and folks ripping on that cover?
Sure. Yeah, and it's I agree. It is a good jumping on point because as we go through it, you'll see that they do a nice little job of retelling like his origin and stuff, but it's not like ham-fisted shoved in there.
Yep.
It's worked in really well. So, and what issue was it? I think I know, but do you remember the exact issue number that John Romita Sr. started? Was it 36?
39.
39.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what? He's 11 issues in, and the faces, I think, are very Romita, but some of the Spider-Man poses are still, kind of Ditko-esque.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. I've been talking about in the series that it's taken this long for John to kind of get a feel for how Spider-Man moves
Mhm.
compared to other heroes that he had worked on before, because he had done a little bit of Daredevil before,
Right.
and then here, and so Spidey moves differently, even though they both swing around, and he's still, after a year, he's still just kind of getting it. Every once in a while, you see like a really stiff pose or something, and you realize this is a guy who's still working out the kinks.
Yeah.
I love a splash page that jumps into the story.
Oh, yeah.
I hate wasting the real estate of a full page just as like a recap of a cover. So this is terrific. Let me cover this real quick, just in case anybody is new to the channel. What we're looking at is a scanned PDF copy of the original book. So in 2004, Marvel went through, they got physical copies of every issue up to that point and scanned them and put it out in a 10 CD-ROM collection or something of every issue up to that point. So we're looking at this original. This is from 1967. So you see all the original ads, the wear and tear on the paper, the coloring, registration mistakes, everything. But I love it because it is exactly how it would have looked as when you picked it up off the newsstand.
Yeah.
So one of the things I noted here right away is we've got Mickey DeMeo, which of course is Mike Esposito,
Right.
as the inker, and John. So he inked the first couple issues that John Romita Sr. drew. Then Romita started inking himself, which I personally liked a lot better. And then
100%. Yeah.
now we've got Esposito coming back in, and I don't know if is it a scheduling issue? Is it faster, right, for John? Because we know that later in life, for sure, he was penciling very loosely. So is this a way for him to go a little bit faster, get it to Mike? Mike's doing finishes, but I don't know the schedule there, but possibly.
I mean, I think John always said he was pretty slow. So it could be a speed thing. I do prefer John's own inks because even though these are, I think you have to have a real good educated eye to be able to go, tell the difference between this and John's own inking. But um, I can see the difference because John's just bolder. He comes from that Milt Kniff school, which is really just like, give me a big fat brush and I'm just going to slap it down, and I like it. I love when he inks himself, but at the same time, Esposito, I thought, married up with him pretty good as well. So
yeah, it's solid, but like you said, if you know what you're looking for, I really like bolder lines to help define the planes in terms of the depth. And I think John does that really, really well. And there's some points where Mike maybe not as strong, but overall, yeah, it's a good marriage. It's not like it's not jarring or it doesn't take you out of the story or anything like that.
No.
So great scene here. In these pages, one of the things here that John has done, which I think is great, and I don't see it as often in modern comics, is he is setting things up. So obviously Spidey's stopping a robbery, and he's setting up this bulletin board between these two pages a bunch, right? Spidey sticks to it, it gets shot through, it's included in that background. So then in the next page, this thing that's supposed to be a door, I think is supposed to be that bulletin board. And then,
but they do label it a door.
They do. So but if you look at the line, I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
Sure.
So yes, he does. It is written as a door, but you see that little like add-on last second doorknob that kind of got, I think just kind of got inked in over on the side here under the word balloon. And then the same thing down here, you just get that little hint of a doorknob.
Yep.
So I think they got written into a Stan trap and had to change it to a.
It's weird though, because back then everything was lettered before they were inked. Right. So if that was the case and I was inking it might not be technically accurate, but I would have put the doorknob down a little farther so it wasn't behind the balloon tail.
Right. It'd be noticeable. Right.
Right. So it's noticeable. So I don't know. It could have been, I don't know. It could have been penciled that way. And even still, if it was, as the inker, once I got it back, I might have been like, oh, that tail's going over that doorknob to make it clear. I'm just going to move it down some. So I don't know. I do think, and this is the charm of comics of this era. And even if something was done this way today, still wouldn't bother me. I love the fact that it doesn't matter if it was the bulletin board or door. You would never slam it down. It would break in half, basically. They wouldn't go through it,
Right.
But that's this is the thing. This is what I love about comics of this time compared to creators growing up now or growing up 20 years ago, 30 years ago that are into comics now. They would never have done something like this. They would have broken it or something. And while that's accurate, to me, this is almost kind of cooler,
Yeah. The whimsical nature, the fun, all of that stuff for sure. It's not so rooted in, like you said, what would the physics of the door be as opposed to
And that's what I think comics today are losing is that crap's just thought about too much, even down to like, costumes with all the, Brian Hitch obviously started it in the Ultimates and then it carried to the movies. And then Marvel was like, yeah, let's give Captain America boots with laces, and it's just like, oh,
right. We don't care how the Buccaneer boot stays on, how it stays folded. It does, and it looks great and it's fun.
Exactly.
But I mean, in terms of just the fight scene here, the choreography, using things like a lot H3 here in the bottom panel of the cityscape, I think is done really well too.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the things I've noted a lot that John has done really, really well is, you know, these perspectives. Um,
Oh yeah.
it's clear he knows the city too, and he's referencing real places sometimes, but I mean, that's a lot for just a little image of Spidey jumping up a wall. It's a lot of work to pencil in all that city background, but it's worth it.
It is a lot of work. Trust me, from experience, I know.
Yeah.
And that's not a small, I'm pretty sure back then pages were still 11 by 17, not twice up.
Right.
But 11 by 17 back then compared to now is way different because, when I got into business in 91, I'm pretty sure the paper I was using that Marvel sent me, same with DC, was the same design, blue line design that was being used back then.
Okay.
And the paper was 11 by 17. The image area was, 10 by 15.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these books obviously back then didn't bleed off the page.
Right.
Once books started to bleed off the page, they basically took the paper, the same size paper, but that far edge was now the bleed of the page. So basically what I'm saying is if you were going to draw a page that did not bleed like you're seeing here on modern paper, it would be smaller than the 10 by 15.
Right. The 10 by 15 is taking you all the way out to the paper edge now, whereas so you would have cut in 2 inches,
and they would have they would have the bounding box in for basically like non-bleed. So if you want to draw a page that printed like this, they would have the bounding box printed in. But if you want to bleed, that's when you would actually draw all the way to the edge, like I did when I first started, and these guys were doing back then. So that fourth panel, it's kind of small, but on an 11 by 17, 10 by 15 image area, that's a pretty good sized panel of real estate you're filling up with that background.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. I mean, it's got to be 6-7 inches, not quite square, but yeah. I mean, that's
it's definitely, like I said, they were 10 by 15 image area. So it's definitely 5-inch across.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it's about a third of the page. So it's roughly 5, and that's not a square. So that could be like 5 by 5.5.
Yeah.
So that's a hefty amount of real estate to fill up with backgrounds like that.
Yeah. But you know what? I really appreciate it, especially with a character like Spider-Man. There's a couple of times we've seen where they do a cool perspective shot in a lot of foreshortening of him either climbing up a building or down a building. And there was one, I think, 2 issues back where John didn't establish the ground. So it's just a figure running up a building, and you're like, are they running towards the camera coming down? Or is it running away from the ground going up? And because you don't establish that ground, it's hard to tell direction, and it gets confusing. But this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then just sort of some, this is a nice little pose, little jumping pose. We get into the Peter stuff. So really, again, like I said, a great jumping on point because they very quickly tab into all the little things that what's going on in Peter's life. So he's living away from home. Aunt May is still sick as always. He gets in there's some college stuff here, the girl stuff, all that stuff is kind of ready. So if this is your first issue of Spider-Man, because you saw the number 50 on it, you can catch up pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
But I did note, like, as far as story-wise, I always feel bad for Peter because, like, he's a kid. He's obviously he's a college student. He's living away from home. He has a job as a photographer. He does classes, and yet when Aunt May gets sick, they're like, "Why weren't you next to your phone? Where were you?"
Yeah,
like,
I know. I mean, you're reading that and you forget they don't have cell phones, and you're like, "What are you talking about? What do you want me to be at my house 24/7 next to the phone?" I'm in college and juggling all this stuff. I mean, duh.
I could be at the lab. I could be on a date. I could be grocery shopping. I mean, like, who knows?
Yeah.
So, and then he beats himself up because he's Peter Parker and that's what he does. But, and then this is, I believe, I put my note here. I'm pretty sure this is the first time that we have seen this character, Professor Warren. So in the previous issue, I think he's just mentioned as Mr. Warren, but here we officially have Professor Warren. And again, we haven't gotten there yet, but folks who know Spider-Man, If you know, you know, Professor Warren's going to be a big deal down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Gwen looks phenomenal.
Yeah, and you can tell it's early Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, blonde hair, black hair band, of course, is the tag. Yep. So you know who she is, even in a black and white image. But he still hasn't solidified to that Gwen we all really know.
Right.
You know, but you know, she looks great. It's once again, I love you know, the art and this stuff because it is more stylized than, you know, today.
Yeah. And you know, I talk about that sometimes in the videos as examples for what I term new artists. So it doesn't matter how old you are, but if you're a newer artist and you're trying to learn the art of storytelling, there's so many things you can take away from this. Framing with large foreground objects, like here with the books and the lamp. That's a great way to make a more interesting panel of just somebody talking to themselves. And the books don't have to be, you don't have to draw every page or what the spine says. We all recognize that shape as stack of books, you know, stuff like that.
Right. And it's not you wouldn't want to do that anyhow because the focus of the panel is not the books and the lamp.
Right.
I will say too, looking through this, even, you know, it's all flat color, of course, but I think even modern colorists could pick up things from this. Talking about that one panel, you know, everything in the foreground is pretty much bluish. I mean, the background is too, but they're different tones. But my point is, you know, in modern comics, you might see somebody color that stuff in the foreground the way it would actually be, you know, different color for each book. The lamp might be a different color, so on and so forth. And I don't have a problem with it, but what I would do is, and you know, to me, this is and I'm not a professional colorist by any mean, as in I've colored stuff of mine, but I've never, you know, colored on a regular basis.
Right.
So a trick that I do is I might color all that stuff separately, but then on another layer in Photoshop, I would actually take a blue and put it over it on a multiply layer and adjust the opacity. So it does have that blue knockout. So it's cooler in the foreground, but you can still see below there's the varying colors, but they're just not so in your face without that blue, you know? And I think stuff like that, you know, modern colors could look at and go, oh yeah, that is a good idea. Cause like I said, even in stuff I do now with the colors I work with, sometimes I'll see stuff where it's like, oh, everything in the foreground's colored individually. And instead of telling them the note, because it takes me no time, I'll just do something like that myself.
Right.
You know,
that's a great idea, especially for stuff that we're doing today with Photoshop. It's so easy to do it, but it's the lesson that we've learned here is what's your focus? It's Peter in this yellow jacket. So if you can dial back the other colors in the panel, he becomes the center, even though obviously he's much smaller figure in the background.
Right.
I also really like this one here where he's talking to the professor. If you keep all the colors the same as far as the figures, right? White, Caucasian skin tone, some browns. Most people would end up coloring that wall. It's supposed to be a classroom, gray, beige, and everything would blend together.
Right.
By using crazy colors, how many people have green and yellow classroom walls? Probably not, but it helps pop those figures out. And I think we lose that sometimes in modern comics too, because everybody's you can color everything 100% real. And it doesn't have to be.
No.
And Peter's sweater is nuts. Like I was looking at this, I was like, is that a Mike? Did Mike Esposito decide to do it, or did John just kind of scribble it? Like, but
you know, that's a good question. I actually have the print copy here, so I can look at it that way too. Now it's on slick paper and stuff. And actually, that's weird. I'm glad we're looking at it this way. Because my print copy, obviously all the inking is the same, but the coloring in those panels are different. And in fact, in my print copy, and this is where they did it, in that panel with the books knocked out, the third panel. In my print copy, every book is a different color. The table's brown and the lamp is green. And that is so much better on screen. But I'm going to assume that John probably just scribbled something in for texture, and then, inking wise, that's a piece of cake to do, texture for a
Right.
fuzzy sweater. But yeah, I like it though. I love that stuff.
Yeah. And this right here, this whole sequence is awesome. And I keep pointing out because I don't know how many readers today would know that John got his background with romance comics. And if you
Yeah.
if you don't know that this is about Spider-Man, this is straight out of a romance book. I mean,
Yeah.
he's bringing all those tools that he learned there and really applying them.
Well, and that's
Great.
just it. Like, I didn't know that until probably sometime in the 90s,
Mhm.
when I would pick up either back issues of some of that stuff because the art is just great. And I went, oh my God, John did this. But yeah, the acting in those romance books is fantastic. I bought one of the DC black and white showcase when they were doing them, of just romance stuff because one, it has a lot of John stuff in it, but two, just the acting, the character acting is great. I tell you another color thing, that bottom panel on the left page with the red background
Mhm.
and my recolored one I'm looking at, they did it white, and then where the burst lines are, they colored those, they're still black,
Right.
but they put yellow behind the burst lines. And the red to me works much better because
Mhm.
red's violent
Yep.
and it's a shocking color, just like the cover, you know. So it's
There's
weird.
yeah.
I had
There's also
no idea.
something to be said about the true acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I mean,
Right,
there's no reason to add when, like you said, that red and it jumps. It's not the background in the panel next to it. So obviously it
right.
strikes you psychologically as he's coming to a conclusion. And then I mean, the way he moves the camera throughout the grid panel. So the grid composition is obviously very simple. It's very effective when you want to work pace, but you have to keep it still interesting. And here, right, we've got like a slightly further down shot, medium, a close up into Jameson even further. Then we pull back and then an upshot on Peter's face at the end. Like every shot is slightly different in terms of camera angle, which helps a reader get through just a talking head page that visually might be very boring on paper, but it, I mean, that's amazing.
Yep, yep. Well,
And
and it was, Jack Kirby did it
mm,
for expedience sake because, it now granted they weren't working full script back then, so it's not like Jack was like, "Oh, it's a 6-panel page. Let me
right,
do this." But even still, even though Jack was working from either just a discussion he had with Stan, or maybe at some point there was just a written plot, it's still easier just to go 4-panel grid, 6-panel grid, 9-panel grid,
mhm,
because just by making that decision can speed you up because you're not having to think about, oh, what panel should have the most emphasis and be the biggest, and so on and
right.
so forth. So,
And like I said, I really like it for pacing when you do have
right.
things that are happening, moment to moment. So, an example on the next page is great. I love big panels. You have Peter from in 1 minute he's in his apartment, the next minute clearly he's put on a jacket, he's walked outside.
Yep.
There's time in between. Whereas that other page, the the anxiety of that pace, I think you feel it as you read it.
Yep.
Obviously, this is great stuff. The architectural work here in terms of those steps and the railing.
Yep.
Um, it's just simple. It's just lines. I mean, it's all straight lines, but it helps really set that scene even better um, than if you didn't have it. If you just had Peter walking on the sidewalk, it's not as strong.
Right.
Um, so, and then of course here, I mean, this has got to be one of the top 4 or 5 Spider-Man images of all time, right? I mean, it's up there with him lifting the machinery off
Oh
him in
yeah.
you know, we've all seen this. Any kind of textbook history of Marvel Comics or Spider-Man is going to have this in there somewhere. So
Yep.
that is incredible.
And the
Oh,
thing too is like he actually, your focus is Peter walking away. The Spider-Man costume in the foreground is actually a really good framing device.
Yep.
You know, and it's not on the left-hand side, it's on the right-hand side, you know, so you get Peter first. I mean, it's like you said, it's a historic image. Other people have used it for characters ditching their costumes and stuff. It's just it's fantastic, you know. And it's also, once again, if this was done today, he wouldn't just ditch his costume in a trash can out in the open like that, you know.
Right.
But that's what I love about it. It's great. He's just like, I don't care, anybody can find it, whatever, you know. And it is. It's just such a striking image. It's great.
And obviously, again, talking about color, everything is cool tones except for that yellow jacket and the red on Spider-Man. And the more you look, the more you see. You start to see the doorways and the stoops on the front of the buildings across. You see this garbage down here in the lower right corner with like the matchbook and a bottle. And the more you look, the more you see. And it's awesome. And then also
the texture in the sky that Mike did, and you know, John spotted the blacks there as well, but just the composition of it with the fire escape over top and all that, it really pushes all this weight down onto Peter's shoulders subconsciously. You know, if that sky was just open for color, you wouldn't feel the weight down on him, you know?
And and you have so much black shadow in the foreground and midground, you can't black out the sky either. So this is a really it's an interesting solution and a creative solution that works really well to do it with this hatchet.
Right. Well, and it's raining, so you definitely wouldn't want to black out the sky.
Right. I mean, well, with today, how many people would black out the sky and then use white to bring in the rain, right?
Well, I mean, if John inked this himself, I guarantee you'd see some razor blade going through that black, because that's how he would do it.
Yep.
It's a great effect. You know, I guess, you know, Esposito just wasn't doing that type of stuff, but he did a great job the way he handled it, you know? So.
And I love the page turn. How many times do you get this kind of a big thing spoiled because it's on the wrong page? This perfect.
And that was one of the things you know, they could place the ad wherever they wanted. It didn't have to be that way.
Exactly.
That's why it's so important when people do their creator-owned stuff like I'm doing and other guys these days. When you write it, you really have to pay attention to the big page turn shots, because we don't have ads. So we have to keep in mind, basically, if you want a big reveal, it needs to be on an even number page.
I did. So when I did my first self-published comic, what I would do, I draw in sequence. I know a lot of people don't.
Same here,
so I will take one of those big 11 by 17 portfolios, and as I finish a page, I put it in so I can literally flip and see how it's going to play out, you know, all in front of me.
Right.
So how would you like 30 days of driving on a single tank of gas?
In this day and age, I'd love it. You know, the funny thing is, because I work at home, before I had to start taking my daughter to and from work 5 days a week, I could do 30 days on gas.
Right.
I'm serious. I only drove.
That's amazing.
But before I took my daughter to and from work, I would drive maybe 35 to 40 miles in a 7-day week.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing 200.
It's crazy. I had in 2020, I bought a new Jeep Wrangler, and then we were all locked in for 4 years or something. I was working from home. And so after 4 or 5 years, I'd start to get inquiries from the dealership. They'd be like, "Hey, you interested in trading in? You think about?" I'd be like, I have like 22,000 miles on this because I never drove it anywhere. I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Oh, good days of gas. Oh well.
Yeah.
So obviously Spidey's quit, and it's Jameson's best day ever.
Yes, it is.
I noted as well here, it's good stuff. Again, moving the camera through the page, and this bottom sort of crowd montage I thought was really interesting way to handle it. I'll zoom in on that bottom page a little bit.
Real quick.
Yeah.
2 comments on the top 2 panels.
Oh, yeah.
The second panel, that figure Jameson looks so dicko.
Oh, yeah.
And the first panel, she actually looks really dicko too. I do not like the kid coming in from the right and running to the left, because if it was flipped, and now obviously if you just took the whole panel and flipped it, it wouldn't work because she speaks first. But remember, this was all scripted after John drew it.
Right.
So technically you could flip that panel and Stan would have just had to have, make it work, which he could have. But let's just say she still spoke first. He still could have just popped that kid. Honestly, you could just flip that kid's figure. Well, you'd have to rearrange it more because the door frame. But the point is, it kind of stops the motion. Whereas if he was running left to right, he would pull you right to that next panel.
Right.
And if his figure was placed in the exact same spot, but just facing to the right, your eye would travel that little bit of distance across the panel from left to right. So you'd actually get the feeling of him moving as well.
Yes.
And in the next panel, he doesn't show any direction of how he comes into the room. So you wouldn't even have to change the next panel at all.
Nope.
So that's like the small thing, but
I have noticed that in my series, and as we've been going through the John Romita issues, for me, he breaks the 180 line rule a lot. So you have characters that are facing right, and then in the next panel leaping left, and then grabbing somebody right, and those things throw me off as well. But you've set up an amazing flow from the kid and his whole body posture moving. And if, like I said, if you flipped it, it goes right into Jameson, right down into that arm, and it pulls you down into the page.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noted here that I think crowd scenes are really hard to draw.
Sure. Yeah.
We always have our main characters in mind. We draw them a million times. And now when all of a sudden you have to come up with 20 different people, that can be really tough. But there's just enough of each figure to make them individual and to read, the eyes, the nose, the face, everything. So it's hard.
He did it. He did it great. And I'm willing to bet. And once again, I don't know. And I would like to actually genuinely know this. If at this point was Stan still just having a conversation with the artist and the artist making notes and then going home and drawing it, or at this point in the Marvel age across the line, were the artist taking home, just like a few pages of plot that Stan typed out and said, page whatever number this is, page 9 in this crowd scene, leave a lot of room for text for the crowd, reacting and talking. It's 1967. It's only 6 years into the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I would have to ask somebody else more knowledgeable, because I really don't know if it was still the take notes as Stan's talking to you about it, go home and draw it, or if, it was typed out. I have no idea.
That's a great question. And there's a friend of mine, friend of the channel. We've had him on a couple times. His name's Nick Caputo. He is a collector and historian. He's written a couple of texts about the history of Marvel Comics. He's got a great blog I've linked to before as well. And he has some interviews. He's done a lot of interviews with Steve Ditko, and he did some with John as well. So he comments on all the videos. He may have some answers for us. So
I'd love to know.
He's a wealth of knowledge. I liked the addition of real talk shows. Oh
my God. As soon as I got to that page, I was like, Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson. I mean, he nailed, for small faces, he nailed the likenesses.
Absolutely.
My question is, panel 2, I read it, but there was no real naming. Are those real people? If not, John did a great job of maybe using real people as models, because they look like real people to me.
I think they are. I can't remember what it's called, but I want to say it's like Meet the Press or maybe something like that.
Well, I know growing up in the 70s, 80s, my dad would watch the McLaughlin Group, but I don't know if that was around in 67.
Yeah. If not, that's the concept, right? But yeah, I it feels like these are real people, not just like when you compare that face, the guy in the blue suit, and you compare it to like the crowd scene. This
Yeah.
it feels like this is definitely a person. And then technically we have the first appearance of the Kingpin. We haven't seen his face, but there's the big fella in the background there.
Is this the
And
first appearance? Like historically, is Spider-Man 50 his first appearance?
I think so.
Oh, I
I
didn't
could
know that. That's
I could
awesome.
be wrong, but I believe so.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
think there might have been a mention of the word, but not a physical appearance yet.
Oh,
And then,
nice.
and we do see him again later. Um, and then I thought this was really crazy. I grew up I was born in 74, so I'm a little over 50. And so for me, like Ross Andrew era was my Spider-Man, that late 70s when
Right.
I was very young. So by then, obviously, Frederick Foswell's long gone. So to me, when I went back and I reread the reprints of the Ditko stuff, you see Foswell in the first couple of issues, and this guy's made it 40 issues. Like he was introduced in number 10 as the big man,
Right.
and I'm like, this guy made it 40 issues? Holy smokes. And you think he's characterization wise, all of a sudden it's this super fast turn. He gets one opportunity to maybe go back to crime, and he's like, "Yep, taking it." It's
Yep, I'm
been
going.
how many years of on the good side? I'm redeemed. No, he jumps fast.
Yeah.
I like the montage of the crime, the bottom of the page there. I thought that was nice. Anytime you can do that, it saves so much real estate, but it sells so well. And like we've been
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about with the coloring, those red hands with the guns, awesome way to center up that montage.
Whereas in the reprint, let's see what they did. Hold on. Oh, they did. So they changed background stuff, but the hands are
Mhm.
still red. So
Okay.
good.
Yeah, that's the impact, right? Of that
Yeah.
dead
Oh, yeah.
center, big red. Yeah.
Totally.
Um, and then here we go. Here is the Kingpin. And so
Yeah.
here's the face of the Kingpin. And then I'm gonna show, let me see if I can do this. Ta-da. So
Oh,
again,
that's awesome.
according to my friend Nick Caputo, he had messaged me about this, knowing that this was coming up. And he told me this is Robert Middleton. And in an interview, John said he liked to use famous people as models for new characters. That was one of the hardest things, or the things he found the hardest, was developing new designs, new characters.
Right.
And so when they had to come up with a Kingpin, he thought of this guy, and he said, and the quote was, "I don't know if Robert Middleton ever was bald on screen, but I just had this idea of a massive man, but dressed to the nines, just
Oh,
felt
yeah.
really powerful." And so
That's great.
that's the guy.
That is freaking great.
So he nailed it. He absolutely got the right guy. So I'm pretty sure this is the first at least visual appearance of the Kingpin that I'm aware of.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so now we've got Peter and Gwen, and things are getting a little more cozy. She's warming up to him a little more. And I do like, because we're gonna see Mary Jane here. And I thought this was interesting. They're both beautiful. Romita's known. I mean, we all know he draws some of the most beautiful women. Mary Jane is lovely, but there's enough subtle differences. And if you look at this, here, I'll blow it up. The Gwen face in the bottom left. Let me get down
Mhm.
there so we can see it. Oops. So there's Gwen there. Very nice, nice face. And then when you go to the next page and you look at Mary Jane, there's little, like, the dimple in her chin. The chin is a little wider.
Yeah.
Still the generic kind of eyes and mouth, but there's enough subtle differences that they're really drawn as different characters, different figures, and I appreciate that.
Oh, no, I totally do. And I mean, when you're drawing Mary Jane, I don't know about, these days currently, but back then and even in the 90s, the chin dimple and the dimples when she smiles were necessary. You had to. And
Yeah.
and it just goes back to character design, which is, Erwin Hasen, when I was in the Kubert school, would always say, and this goes with character design or anything else, um, tagging. You want to
Mhm.
tag things, whether it's a room. So, if it's a living room, think of things you would see in a living room. If it's a character, things you can do. The Kingpin's bald. That's tagging, and the fact he's a huge guy. But with women, especially because a lot of these guys and a lot of artists still have that quote unquote stock face they draw, if it's a pretty person, whether it's a guy or a woman. So you want to do things like, oh, how can I distinguish Mary Jane from Gwen besides the haircut? Right. So he gives Gwen the black headband. So even in black and white, okay, Gwen's now different. Well, he gives Mary Jane a different hairstyle and the chin dimple and then the cheeks, and boom, in black and white, two different characters. Even just in close up, not even talking about clothing, which would distinguish them too. So,
and again, it just goes to show how things don't have to be overly complicated. It can simple things like a dimple, the shape of the chin, stuff like that can make a huge difference in your characterization. So you don't have to go bananas when you're designing stuff. You can still have a relatively generic but similar faces, but little differences can go a long way. And of course,
it's the same with Peter Parker and in the front of his hair, not in small shots, but in most shots, he has that one little curl that comes down. That's out of place,
And that's, it's simple shorthand. And then you immediately know who that is.
Right.
And the camera angles, again, talking about the storytelling, this issue is so much talking heads that if you don't move the camera around a lot throughout a page, it's going to get real boring real fast. And it never does. So we've got Mary Jane, Peter, and again, big grids, there's just a lot of real estate to get through to where we get to the big point of the focus of the issue. And but still does it and keeps it interesting. Like I said, this could easily bog down, but I felt like this book reads quick. Like you get through it pretty fast.
It does. But because I haven't looked at old stuff like this in a long time, I mean, I say a long time means like a few weeks, but you look at this and just looking at those 2 pages that were just up in a modern comic, that's like 10 pages.
Right. Yeah. We have to
I mean, honestly, that page on the left with Mary Jane, those first 3 panels, those first 6 panels could be a page and a half.
Right.
Well, actually, I'm looking at my printed copy. I could see the first 4 panels being 1 page, and then page turn, big shot of him on his motorcycle, and then the last 3 panels after that. So that 1 page on the left could easily be 2 pages.
Oh, easily.
In a modern book, I
mean, you have one. So there's one scene at with Mary Jane and Aunt May at that house. Then you have the scene of him riding on the bike. Then he's back in his apartment. Then you have the robbery. You have 4 scenes in 1 page.
Right.
Which,
just on another note, if you look at the second panel on the page on the right where he's putting his hand up to his head, in this day and age, you've got 3 balloons in that panel that are, pretty not super text heavy, but good enough.
Yeah.
In this day and age, that could almost be 3 separate panels, because when I look at stuff now, especially when it's full script, I'll break a panel up if there's 2 balloons going to the same, the one guy in the panel. But if what's being said in the 2 balloons in my head, I visualize 2 different facial expressions because of what's being said. That's 2 panels.
Right.
So you could easily do that with that middle panel. So
absolutely. I mean, and then, same thing here. So that's him on the couch. Then it cuts to the next day with him and Harry. Then he's at school. Then he's leaving. So again, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different scenes in theory on this 1 page. And, but you're able to pull it off. And I don't get lost through it either. And that is a tribute to minor. Again, we talked about size, right? So these have to be about 17, 3 panels high. So
Oh,
A little over.
these are what? They're 3 panels, 15. They're each about a little under 5 inches because gutters back then were a 1/4 inch roughly.
Right.
So they're each like, yeah, 3 by 5.
3
Yeah.
by 5, yeah, and yet you have just enough of a background to go, they're in the kitchen
Oh, yeah.
talking. Oh, there's school behind Gwen, you could tell because of the stairs and stuff, and then, here's some, here's the scene with Aunt May on the front porch and then the building. So you
Now,
don't have to go crazy with those backgrounds to keep
no,
establishing different scenes.
no. Now, I will say I love this line of dialogue in the middle panel. Peter goes, "How about a soda sandwich and spin after class, woman?"
Woman.
But here, tell me, maybe it's just me, but this kind of confuses me because then she goes, "Love it, man, but I have a date with Harry tonight." And he goes, "You two aren't pinned or anything, are you?" Saying, dating steady. And then
Right.
she goes, "First flash, now Harry, you're always trying to pair me off." And to me, that's kind of weird because I'm thinking, she says, "You're always trying to pair me off." And I'm like, what are you talking about? He literally just asked you out. That's the first
Right.
thing he did in the panel was
Right.
ask you out. And you're like, he's not trying to pair. He's just asking if you're actually steady with anybody because he just
Right.
asked you out.
Right.
So,
It's yeah. There
but that woman line, dude, oh my God. I read that and I was like, oh, I almost want to steal that for a comic today just to see heads of
the
cool. You
the
can't
60
call her a woman.
woman, the 1960s, like, and it's preceded by sandwich. So
Yeah.
not quite make me a sandwich, but it's close.
Yeah. So,
But I
no,
love
that's
it.
great though.
The
That's great.
67 dialogue, Mary Jane's dialogue sometimes is just Stan is trying too hard and he is not hip.
Oh, there was a line. Yeah. Well, I don't think we passed it yet. Oh, we did because Mary's. I'll try and find it while we're still looking through it because there was a line Mary Jane said that killed me.
Yeah. I mean, she's too much.
Yeah.
So then we've got Peter. He sees this guy getting beat up, this security guard, so he can't obviously stand by. And this is what I was saying about establishing that ground when you have that nice down shot and perspective of the wall. If you don't have that motorcycle and some elements there, and it's just that same bluish color, I mean, we know we're smart enough to go, well, obviously the guy's on the ground, he's going to climb up, but visually you lose your orientation.
Right.
Very nice stuff here. Real nice face on the security guard. It's not quite Uncle Ben, but it's obviously enough, as we see.
Right. Because when I looked at it, before I even read any of the text, I was like, oh my God, that dude looks like Uncle Ben. And then you read it and you're like, oh yeah. So that's just done so nice.
Now, what I wasn't sure about, and I asked the question because I like it here. He's trying to stay in the shadows. And if on this bottom panel, it's grayish, and I can't tell from the scan, like, is it a color? I think it is color, but I was like, or is it like a light zipatone? But I think it's actually just a real light, almost cyanish color, maybe.
I think it is because on the reprint, they colored it a darker flesh.
Okay.
And then they colored his collar white and his shirt red and his jacket, whatever. I like the monotone feel they did here because it does put him in shadow with a little bit of rim light.
Yep.
But I will say also the next panel reads better too, because in mine, the guy just, once again, it's modern and this trade paperback's not new. This thing came out in, where's the stupid print date? 2001.
Okay.
But
so not,
but the recoloring, the dude colored the sky like pinkish purple, colored the water blue, colored the lights yellow like they are, so that's good. Colored the buildings brown, and in the foreground he colored the dock brown. He colored Peter Parker with the brown jacket and turquoise greenish whatever pants, and he colored the motorcycle all red. And I'm like, oh, I like that so much better. Even though they're in shadow, it doesn't bother me that it's all yellow because it is supposed to be at night. So he indicated that with the greenish in the background and the monotone.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, like I said, they're kind of in shadow, it's almost like there's this light source from off the panel that's yellow and lighting them enough.
Like the yellow
And
lights in the background.
I just like the monochrome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it works so much better than this. Oh, let's color everything separate.
I know.
So.
Yeah, I'm 100%. The only other thing here that I have to deal with, which, like I said, it's part of the charm of seeing the original, but there has been in the past couple of issues so many print registration ish errors where the colors are just offset so far, and you know, I get it. It wasn't meant to be the collector item that we do today, so they just went, put it out. Just it's gonna get pulled.
Gotta
Put it
hit
out.
that print date. Gotta hit the back then it was all about you had your press time, and you had to make the press time. And that's just the way it goes. So
but yeah, so here's what you were talking about at the beginning, the recap of the origin that isn't, like you said, it isn't ham-handed, it isn't pushed down your throat. Now, I'm curious, so the burglar here, does this guy remind you of anybody famous? I mean, I know it's not, but because of the timeline, but I looked at it and immediately drew an image to mind, a person to mind.
So on mine, he actually went, and I actually kind of like the coloring in this reprint a little better because it's a flashback. So one thing to denote a flashback besides the panel borders is color. So in the flashback, the characters that are important are all red, and then the non-important stuff is all yellow or orange. So in that panel, the bad guy's all red, and then everything else is yellow, orange. The first thing that comes to mind, but there's no way you're thinking James Dean.
No, I'm thinking Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's way too early.
It's way too early. No, I know, but I just find it ironic that to me that's the first face that I
guess
saw
in the color version, and like I said, mine's all red. So
right,
but yeah, I guess
James Dean. I mean, I suppose you can see that too. I hadn't even thought about.
But he's definitely. I don't know enough about the early issues to know if he took Ditko shots and just kind of traced them off. Or if he just leaned more into Ditko for the flashback.
I think he leaned into it. I know the scene here with the burglar running past, that's not the same image and angle. I think the microscope one might be very similar. I think that might be Ditko and kind of redone.
Yeah.
Possibly the face of with Peter crying with the glasses, that might be as well.
Yeah.
I did note this is when I reviewed Amazing Fantasy 15, one of the things I noted is the cop. So the cop that tells Spider-Man that he should have caught the burglar is this same guy, and there's a coloring error where he did have a big white mustache, and in one panel they color it flesh tone, the next one it's white. The reason that's important, you were talking about with Mary Jane and Gwen, little subtle things to identify your character.
Right? Is it supposed to be Captain Stacy?
No, he's the same. Well, maybe, but he's the same cop that tells Peter that Uncle Ben is dead, and you recognize him by the mustache in Amazing Fantasy.
Right.
Cool. So we've got the rest of the recap. Pretty similar, I think. Yeah. Obviously that image of him grabbing the unconscious burglar. But it's done well, but it's clearly a Romita figure. It's more muscular. And let me ask you this real quick. How do you feel about the difference between the Romita costume design and the Ditko costume design? Because I've been talking about how Romita simplified it. The web pattern, which I think part of it is merchandising, because it's going to be a lot easier to reproduce consistently for merchandise. But I think it works really well. So I'm just curious, how do you feel? What was your take on the Ditko versus Romita webbing design?
Well, Romita, to me, growing up, when I went with back issue stuff, because obviously when I first got into comics, his son was drawing the book,
Yeah.
Junior. But when I would trace back, I always preferred Romita Sr. over Ditko.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ditko was just more of a lay it down, get it done type. And when I look at Romita's stuff, it's a little more, you know, you could say OCD in a way. It's more technical, you know, and I think that's just the difference in personality. So he probably, and you know, when you're drawing something repetitive, especially with webbing and stuff like this, you just want to get it down to a system. I don't know if Ditko really cared enough from panel to panel. Whereas,
for sure,
right. Whereas I think Romita was like, well, I'll just get it down to this system, which means from panel to panel, it keeps it easy, you know?
There's also something to be said when Ditko is first working on Spider-Man. Who knows? Is it going to go 5 issues, 10 issues? Like at that point, nobody knew. By issue 50, obviously, we've got a pretty good foothold with the readership. Numbers are good. So, yeah, this is going to be going on a long time. Let's bring some consistency in and make sure that it works, regardless of who the artist is.
Right.
But yeah, I grew up with this design of Spider-Man. That's for sure. And I have a video on my channel as well where I went one time and I said the do's and don'ts of character design. And one of those things is like, hey, don't bring in super crazy patterns. You have to draw this character 500 times every issue. Like, be smart about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some more Kingpin stuff. Foswell thinks he's going to muscle in on the Kingpin, which
I know.
kibosh to that right away, which is very nice.
Yeah, and the funny way he does it, you know, the whole disintegrator beam built into his cane, and the gun was in the dude's hat, which, you know, once again, just the way he's carrying the hat and stuff, even in the last panel of the page before, you know, the gun would fall out, but who cares? You know, it's freaking comics. It's great. Nobody cares.
Exactly. And then we have here, we're getting to this is the last page. I love the reveal of the feet. There's a part of me that kind of wishes it was on the page turn. But that would be hard to do. Just maybe because you've got the image of Peter here. So if you could have moved panel 1 of this page onto the previous page so that when you turned, you saw Spidey.
Yeah, because you know what he's doing,
right,
where he's going. So it doesn't need to be a page turn. And yeah, you could have just put it because that's not a big reveal. Oh, look, he you know, he sees his costume, keep the panel the same. And instead of doing 2 panels at the bottom of that page, make it 3. And then you turn the page and you know, you could have kept the same layout, but had a nice horizontal across the top
a little more
where
real estate.
Spider-Man his whole body was framing the scene with his feet kicked up on his desk.
That would,
you know,
yeah.
But you know, I like it. If I were to have any question about it, is the fact of what did Peter do with his clothes? Because they're not on under the costume.
Right. And he doesn't have like the little web pack on his back.
He's not swinging with the web pouch. So
so that's we won't.
Exactly.
This is how no prizes got invented, is guys like us asking these questions. I love this image of Jameson. I thought that was awesome. That pose still often eludes me. To get that angle right, and then to do it just mostly within shadow of blocking out the form, to have that head turned up like that is amazing. So to do it at a small size and get that angle right, that's
and once again, that background is so much better behind him in the other room. It's just all blue. And what I'm looking at, they did like purple around the burst lines from his head, the reaction lines. And they did a gray door, and they did a blue wall, and they did a gray filing cabinet. And it's just like, once again, you can do all that, but then it's not important. Put a tint over top in a different layer. You know, you don't need to see all the individual coloring of what's back there.
It's really not important. That red needs to draw you in. That's all. That's it.
Yep.
Again, keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes the easiest things are the best.
And then
And
the last panel, to me, that's a really Ditko pose, not a Romita pose.
yeah,
And the only other thing I would have done is I would have had his hand forward, spitting out another web line. But
mm,
you
he
know,
almost looks. It's almost more of a classic flying pose than a swinging pose.
well, yeah, because he has that web line behind him.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's nitpicky. It's
Oh
still
yeah.
freaking cool for what it is.
Absolutely. I mean, and I love the panel above I mentioned with the Jameson's head, but there's a slight tilt of it's not quite a Dutch angle where I would go, oh, it's really obvious, but like that little tilt of the angle on your
Yeah,
horizon line of panel 4,
yeah, yeah,
it's those little touches are just so good. And
yeah,
again, if people are new artists and you're trying to learn the art of storytelling in comics, all these things are a masterclass on little subtle things is what it's all about.
yeah.
And there we go. And there is the issue. So, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was a great issue. Normally I rank these out of 10. I would give this a very solid 8 out of 10, which is a big number for something that doesn't have a lot of action, but
Yeah.
there's so much iconic stuff and things happening in this issue that it's got to be it's an all-timer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go 7.5 because it is an anniversary, 50.
Mhm.
So, like, it's not an anniversary in regards to like issue 60. You'd go, ooh, 5-year anniversary.
Right.
But people think 50. And it's like, ooh, just like to me, it's like not 10, 12, and then 25. And then after 25, really, it would be 50, and then
Right.
60, 75. So with a 50, I think they did a really good job because it's not like, oh, this is the 50th issue. Let's have Spider-Man kicking tons of ass in it. They really went the opposite route, which is like you said, let's make it a jumping 1 point almost, retelling his origin. And he's not in it much because we're going to
Yeah.
say he quits.
Right.
And that's pretty freaking ballsy. So
It's interesting too. If you look at the cover, there is nothing that indicates special number 50
no,
anniversary issue. To them, I think the idea was it's just another issue. It's just we're going to get
right.
50
Well,
because we
that's
want
just, and
to.
that was, they didn't really start doing any of that crap till later on, anyhow.
Right.
I mean, once again, back then, if if we were whatever teenagers in 67 and buying it off the stand, I probably wouldn't have thought, like I just said, well, it's number 50. What the, to me, it
Right.
just would have been like, it's the next issue. It's
Yeah.
because of, all the like conditioning, over our lives where it's like, it's big 75, it's big 25 or 24, because
Yeah.
24 is 2 years and then
Right.
25 it's 25. So
Yeah. These days, this thing would have been a 40-page with 50 different covers,
oh yeah,
and I mean, it would have
yeah,
been an event, and and here they were just like, hey, it's 50 because next month we're getting 51, and we're just going to keep on rolling, and
yeah,
that's just how it was.
yep.
So that's the issue. I loved it. Andy, I want to give you a couple minutes here. Let's talk about your stuff real quick. I would definitely want to tell everybody about the Kor-Drath universe because I think it is phenomenal. I know you've got your campaign out there right now, still with Lilith, right? Is still
Yep,
taking
Lilith,
orders.
Infernal Conflict, still live on Indiegogo and Kickstarter, where you can only get Billy Tucci and Dan Lawless's cover. And
Nice.
yeah, it's still live on both platforms. Go check it out. Lilith is a character. She's a succubus. She's hot and sexy, spins out of the Kor-Drath world. But have no fear, if you never read Kor-Drath, The Reckoning or The Awakening, you don't have to. This is a one-off story. It's like a prequel telling about how she came to be the badass succubus warrior that she is, and her world of the abyss, going up in this war against the demon lord Vixarion. And yeah, we learn a lot about her and how she came to be and why she was chosen to be sent up to the world of Kor-Drath to do what she does up there against him. And if you want to get Kor-Drath volume 1 and 2, they're on the campaign as well as add-ons or a catch-up tier. So definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the description of the video as well, so folks have those links. They can just go right to there. Highly
Cool.
recommend it. If you like Conan, Kor-Drath is Conan on steroids. Literally, it is. Kor-Drath is an awesome universe that you've created.
Thank
Congratulations,
you.
it's terrific. And again, thank you so much for being here on
Yeah.
this episode. I had a super fun time. It's always great to talk to somebody else who makes comics, loves comics, knows comics. So thank you so much. And
You got
everybody
it.
out there, we will see you next week with even more Spider-Man. Thanks. All right.